All right, so prior to travel, you actually need to submit a request, and the department recommends 30 days in advance, especially if you are trying to get funding from the department. And so you'll need to submit this request in Concur. And so we're going to go to the Requests tab. From here, we're going to create a new request. And any of these boxes with red require that you fill this out. So I'm just going to make up a trip that I'm going to go on here. So I'm going to name it Ashley's Trip Example. And underneath this, how will you be booking your travel? There are multiple options, but really you should only be choosing either one or two. So you're either going to book inside Concur, in which you'll submit the request, choosing option number 1, and then it will allow you to book after you receive a note that it's been approved, or you're going to be booking outside of Concur. In this case, using something like Google Flights or like a booking website. And so for this test run, I'm actually going to say that I am booking in Concur, though I realize you probably will be booking outside. And my destination city is going to be Houston. Put in here George Bush. And my travel date, let's see here, put in 4th to 8th. And I'm attending a conference. You're going to say the name. I now have my own research conference. Under trip type, most often it will be out of state. Sometimes there's in-state. Under traveler type, this is really important to note. So under this, you're either going to be usually putting non-grant OU employee or grant OU employee. And most of the time, it'll be non-grant. No, this is already filled out for us. I'm going to say my department's psychology. No. If you were going to add personal travel, then you would need to account for that in there, but most of us won't be doing that. And then any comments you want to add in here. So for example, if you've requested funding from another source, you're going to want to put this in here. So for example, I'm going to put requested funding from Graduate Student Senate for $300, still waiting approval. And anything related to funding you're going to want to include in here. So I'm going to go to the next tab titled Segments. So from this point on, you're really trying to estimate the expenses that you'll have on your trip. And so on here, I'm going to act as if I'm flying. So there are two ways that you can get amounts for this. If you are sure that you're going to be booking outside of Concur, then you're going to need to go to a website. So for example, here I have Google Flights pulled up, and I can put in that it's going to be $205 estimated. If you book through Concur, there's actually a neat little tab on here where, let's see, right here where you can search for a flight, and that's just on the main homepage. And so I already have that pulled up. I've already filled it out. And here I have a quote, and I would use this. And I just want to note here that if you are planning on booking outside Concur, you need to provide a justification that the flight was cheaper, and then you need to provide an airfare comparison from both sites. So I would just take a screenshot of this, and then a screenshot of this, and include that in the actual expense report, but you don't have to do that for the request. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go with this, and it's $205 estimated. Oh. And I'm traveling from OKC to Houston. And whenever I do this, it actually creates an itinerary. I'm going to click save. All right, and now here I have an itinerary. At this point, if you were going to rent a car or lodging, you would want to include that here as well. Lodging this button is specifically for a hotel reservation. So if you're using something like Airbnb, because it's cheaper, you would add that here under hotel lodging. So say for example, I'm adding this. I'm gonna say it's $5. And you need to provide justification for why you're not staying at the hotel for the conference. So say for example, I looked up here and I see that it's $229 a night at my hotel. In my request, I would say hotel conference is $234, I believe. Airbnb. I'm gonna save that. And anything else that you would want to add on here, you want to go ahead and add as much as you can ahead of time. So say for example, I know that I'm going to be adding the registration fee. So I'm going to add that in here. $235. Supplies, let's say printing poster. Anytime you can leave a comment, that's also a good idea. It's gonna cost me $50. I do want to note on here that if you plan on driving, you can only claim up to the maximum airfare. So for example, if it would cost you $250 to fly, but it would cost you $300 to drive, you'll only get $250 back. And also, as a side note, if you are claiming mileage, you cannot charge fuel on your travel card. You can either claim mileage or you can claim fuel, but you can't do both. So that's something in here if you were adding those, you would want to do. All right. So on here, the manager approval will be the department chair. So for us, it's Dr. Eric Day. Audit trail. This will just show you where it's going through. And from here, since I've added everything in that I can think of currently, with all of my estimates here, I'm going to submit request. Now, I do want to say that if for some reason you forget to put something on here and you end up needing to add it later in your expenses, you can do this because this is just an estimate of your costs. But I want to note that whatever funding you're given, if you go over that amount, the extra will actually come out of your paycheck. So you want to make sure to stay underneath that amount that you're allowed. All right, and it has been submitted. And so now here it shows that I'm waiting for approval here, and I've submitted it. All right, and that is how you submit a request.